in your past, in your experience, have you seen something where companies weren't able to really be successful with chaos engineering, or maybe they are getting a little bit stuck, or they were not quite sure how to really get the most out of it?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like, I think we could explore that question for almost all day, but there's a lot of different aspect of kind of the journey, right? I think getting stuck in chaos engineering, it really depends where you're in journey, right? Some company actually struggles to start because they overthink it. They think it's like, landing on the moon, and they need to prepare for everything. They need to have everything perfect. They think that they need to do this in production, so they get really scared. So they don't even start. I think there's this big group of companies where they just struggle to start, right? But you can even think before that, actually, there's even a problem is like some companies don't even think it's necessary. There's something quite interesting from a psychology point of view. It's called the prevention paradox, right? Where it's difficult for companies to invest in something related to prevention because it doesn't happen if it's
There's no
successful,
guarantee.
right? For example, the year 2000 bug, right?
Oh, yes.
Companies spend years preparing for it, and then 2000 happened. Mostly went very well because everybody had done a great job, but prepared very well. And then people said that it was
That's it.
like, what? Nothing happened. Like, after it was all overblown, right? That's called the prevention paradox. Is you do the work, nothing happened, and then people say, so it was not worth it, right? It was not. We shouldn't have done it. It was bad investment. So that's the prevention paradox. Often those companies don't even think about chaos, right? So then you have those that think it's important but are scared to start, and then you have those that kind of are the grassroots. I call that grassroots, right? Well, so you have like chaos champion inside the companies. They do those experiments at their team level. Sometimes it goes a little bit further than the team, but then they don't get leadership support, and that doesn't scale through the organization or the company as a whole. And then like that's kind of the spectrum of difficulty.
What would you say, especially from the leadership? Is it really sometimes the way of communicating the value from the tech people up to the leadership, so that they are not really able to see what's in it from my perspective?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of part of that, right? It's like difficult sometimes for engineer to speak the language of leadership, and typically leadership loves metrics, and
yes,
it's and so we need to find ways to get metrics that that can support the need for chaos engineering, right? So, and the problem is metrics are also there's a lot of problems with metric. So I guess that, there's a misalignment here. So you really need to make a lot of effort to align kind of metrics from your chaos efforts with the language of leadership. But sometimes it's even before that, is like the leadership just doesn't see the value of, again, investing in resilience, or they have other priorities. So, you need to find what are the priorities that your leadership is looking to work on for this year or the next few years, and try to align your program on that. Because I think the big problem I see is people tend to think chaos engineering is only around kind of improving, or reducing, the unknowns and faults. But there's a lot of other benefits to it, which I'm surprised people don't talk more about that. Like, amazing benefit is practicing run books or operational readiness. So many people go into on-calls unprepared, and then they have an outage. The run book is out of date. So like using chaos engineering through a way to make sure your run books are up to date is such a great way. And you don't need to talk about chaos engineering. You don't need to talk about failure. You don't need to talk about any of that. You can just align from the operational readiness point of view, right? And I've done that actually in some teams inside AWS as well, right? Like and customers, and it always resonates. Like, it's nobody ever said our run books are all perfect and up to date, right?
No,
never. So
never.
If you take that angle, you typically get, oh yes, that's awesome. Yeah, let's make sure our run books are up to date. and then let's make sure our on-call are ready, right? Because systems have become more and more reliable, available, resilient. So there's less and less outages, right? So with this kind of what's called the skill atrophy for our on-calls is, we don't typically practice our recovery skills that often anymore, right? Like 15 years ago, it used to be a lot more outages, and now it's less. Practicing that skill, make sure that the on-calls are confident and they know what they're doing. Again, that's operational readiness. Nobody is going to argue with you on that one. So there's other angles, and I can come up with so many angles like this, which people don't seem to leverage, which is strange.